Women's fashions are more than fabric, lace, and ribbons. In the clothing women wore and in the stories of their owners, we can trace the patterns of their culture, including how society viewed women and, in turn, how they viewed themselves. If you listen closely, the fabrics, lace, and ribbons can speak to you. This series explores the clothing and textile collection from Grinnell Historical Museum, a small museum located in Grinnell, Iowa. It was an elegant dress for a remarkable woman named Isabella Beaton. Born in 1870 in the small prairie town of Grinnell, Iowa, Isabella Beaton showed musical promise from an early age. She began playing piano at age 4 and gave her first public concert when she was only 12 years old. She graduated from Grinnell College's Conservatory of Music in 1890, and in 1894 she embarked upon an intensive 5-year period of study in piano and composition with well-known masters in Berlin and in Paris. In 1899, she returned to the U.S., where she settled in Cleveland and lived with an aunt. Initially performing in homes, she eventually achieved an active concert schedule, continued her education, and joined the teaching staff of the Cleveland School of Music. Her busy professional life was complicated by the illness of the aunt with whom she lived and the poor health of her parents in 1905. It became necessary for her to become the caregiver for her aunt, as well as the breadwinner for her extended family. In 1910, she founded the Beaton School of Music, which she ran for the next 12 years while working tirelessly to advance her musical career. By the time her aunt died in 1917, Isabella Beaton was exhausted. She was nearing 50 years old, and her playing, composing, teaching, caregiving, and hard work had not brought her the fame and musical recognition she had hoped for in her younger years. She returned to Grinnell in 1922 and lived with her sister and brother-in-law, quietly withdrawing from public life. In December of 1928, Isabella Beaton entered the state hospital at Mount Pleasant, Iowa for extended treatment. The hospital at Mount Pleasant cared for patients with mental illness. There, less than 2 months later, she died alone of influenza. Isabella Beaton's traveling ensemble was worn in the years of hope and ambition as she traveled from concert to concert. It consists of a skirt and matching bodice of lightweight wool. It features silk brocade trim on the shoulders and lower sleeves and a V-shaped accent front and back. A matching silk brocade-fitted sash is sewn into the side seam. She traveled with her Virgil practice clavier, a silent teaching practice piano, which allowed her to rehearse pieces while on tour. Isabella Beaton's last years contrast sharply with her youth and all its promise. Perhaps the same could be said of this gown worn by Miss Beaton for her concert performances. Originally white or cream in color, its satin would have reflected the lights on the stage as she played the piano. The elegant silk and lace of her dress would have complemented her skill as she performed. But the results of 100 years and less than ideal storage are apparent in the discoloration, staining, and shattering of the silk. Time took its toll on this dress as well as on its owner, both of them succumbing to elements beyond their control. If these dresses could speak, they would tell the story of an accomplished pianist and composer, a businesswoman and teacher who aspired to musical greatness. They cannot tell the story of the dutiful niece, daughter, and sister who was compelled to be the sole breadwinner and caregiver for her family, ultimately making them their priority for her time and energy when they needed her. Who's to say if one story is more important than the other?